this episode, we're going to spray paint our miniatures to give them a base coat. Base coats are important because it gives a nice, stable, smooth finish for all of the future paints to go on top of. And if you do it in a certain way, it'll also help and speed up your painting process. So you're going to need to grab a couple of extra things that aren't included in the magazine. We're going to need an old piece of wood. It's about 2 inches by 1 inch. If you're going to B&Q, for example, in their offcuts bin, you can find something like this. It doesn't even have to, it could be an old piece of scrap cardboard, just something sturdy enough to hold the miniature. With blue tack, or any general purpose adhesive putty will do. Okay, something that's not going to peel paint off though, more importantly. So nice little bit of tack, but not too much. I'd recommend picking up some matte black spray paint. Unfortunately, Halfords have just changed the formula on this one, so I'm going to stop using this exact brand, which is a bit unfortunate. So I'm going to switch over to Colourforge. This particular colour is Ghoul Grey. We're going to need both of these, so if you're going to go out and do some shopping, make sure to pick up a can of matte black and Ghoul Grey. They're near enough identical to what GW are selling, but these are significantly cheaper. In GW, I believe it's called Chaos Black spray paint and Grey Sear. What we're going to need to do is get this out of the way, keep our spray stick and our blue tack and our miniature. What I need to do now is strip it down to its 3 sub-assemblies. So we've got its base and scenic element. Nice little blob of blue tack. Now, if you just roll the blue tack between thumb and forefinger for a few seconds, warm it up, this will make it much more malleable and a little bit tackier. So when you stick it underneath a tri-end, stick it around one of the plugs and the rhythm at the base and push down firmly. Just gives it something more to adhere to. Okay. Now remember, from our assembly, this guy should just pop out. There we go. And we're going to spray these in 2 sessions. So I'm going to put him cloak down for this. So, yeah, just make sure he won't fall off. And again, like so. Okay, we're now ready to do our first spraying session. I'll make sure I've gone outside to do all the spray painting. There's some really nasty fumes that come out of the propellant and the paint as they cure. And also keep your spray painting work outside for a good 15 minutes or so. Just let it off gas. You don't want any fumes in the house. As you saw there in real time, I wanted to just to emphasise how much of agitation the cans need to really mix up propellant and the paint together. If you don't do that, you'll get an inconsistent performance. You might get too much paint, it'll come out really gritty. Almost texture of sandpaper almost, and if you don't do it, if there's too much propellant, it won't be any paint at all and you'll just hit it with a solvent. Okay, keep your can upright at all times when spraying. Move the work around the can, just try and get in all those nooks and crannies. When you think you're done, just give everything a quick check and just hit any areas with a light dusting. With the first coat of black spray paint, we're now just going to flip the minis over and give them a coat on the other side. So, you can see that the black's not on the side we didn't paint. It's a bit trickier. You don't have. I think that shield will be a good attachment point. Oh, no, no good. What else can I rest on? Slightly different point. Cool. Make sure nothing falls off. Oh, second coat. When you're spraying, it's important to use short, sharp bursts and not just push down on the button and spray everything. So this way, you're not going to overload the details with too much paint and clog everything else. You're literally just hitting it with enough paint to give a very thin coating. It would be much better to go back and give a second light coating than hit it with one thick coat, which will just drip everywhere and ruin your miniature. And with that, our miniature is painted black. It's still got its three sub-assemblies. For the next step, I'm going to reassemble it and reattach it back to its base. So be careful, do let it fully cure, not dry, but cure before you start touching the miniature. It will be touch dry in about 15 minutes or less, depending on heat, but it won't be fully cured for about 24 hours. That means if you start applying pressure with your fingers, earlier than that, the paint might shear off, smudge, or just leave a fingerprint in it. That's not ideal. So very gently and gingerly touch the miniature. Cool. So I can see here that is where the blue tack has lifted off a bit of the black paint. Because I'm about to put another spray paint over the top of this, I'm not too worried. And if it were to stay black, what I would do is I would recoat it with a black paint anyway. So don't be too worried if this happens. What I actually want to make sure of is that there is no blue tack left on the miniature, because when I spray paint over this or paint over it, I'll paint over the blue tack, then it'll peel off later and ruin your paint job. Put that to one side for a second. So, very carefully sliding the torso back into place. Cool. And then putting him back into those slots. Again, very carefully, so I don't want to disturb anything. Okay, and here we go. So I've left this prominent gap still here. Collect up our 3 blue tack bits, warm them back up. Reattach him back to a spray board for a sort of zenithal, but not quite. So I don't know how well this shows up in the camera, but this time this matte paint, maybe because I've mixed it a little bit more, has gone on very matte, apart from this segment here, which is a bit shinier. It's not quite gloss, so we'll call that satin. I want a consistent matte paint when I do use it, which is probably why I'm going to switch to Colourforge. In this, we're going to do some very basic source lighting, as if the light source is above the miniature. So I'm going to spray directly down on top of it, nice short sharp bursts again, and I'm going to angle it slightly to expose some underhangs that are on the miniature. But overall, we're going to leave black underneath, so if you're looking at it from below, it'll be black, and it'll be whitish from the top. And then let it fully cure. Now that we've applied grey ghoul from the top and the sides, it's left the black in the recesses. So now it's pre-shaded or pre-highlighted, so both are accurate. There's a couple of... We're now ready to start painting. You don't have to do the black undercoat to start with. You can do the whole thing grey ghoul. You don't have to paint it in a sub-assembly. This is just how I'm choosing to do it. It'll be much simpler if you do it the other ways, but it's basically, you can achieve that by cutting out steps from this. So on the next one, we'll start putting some acrylic paint on it.